Number 10. Aaron Slaughter. Aaron Slaughter is not quite as new as some of the others on this list, but I really wanted to shout him out and the series he's from, so I'm extending my definition of new for just that purpose by about a year. He is from a series that I can't quite say the name of here on the YouTubes, so instead we are going to use an acronym. Is that cool with you? It's cool with me. We're going to use the acronym of SIKTC. What can I say? It is a title that has the word killing in it, so there's a hint if you're looking to look it up. And it's about basically monster hunters and the people that they help as they travel around trying to eliminate vicious creatures who prey on innocents. Erica Slaughter is the first monster hunter we are introduced to through the series, and Aaron Slaughter is basically kind of like her adoptive brother. He not only appears in SIKTC, making his first appearance in issue number 3, I believe, of that series, but also now appears in the spin-off title House of Slaughter. SIKTC and Aaron Slaughter are both properties coming from Boom Studios. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us that you love us by clicking that like button? Why not show indie comics that you love them? Because let's be honest, they deserve it. They deserve a thumbs up. Give it to them. Number 9. Gunslinger Spawn. Gunslinger Spawn is a hero who you may think of as old now, considering he first made a very brief first appearance on a cover back in 2002. But this gunslinger that we're talking about here is not the same Gunslinger Spawn as the one that first appeared back in 2002, and later got his origin story shared in 2008. This Gunslinger Spawn is not old Job, but instead Jovi, who is much younger and also is believed to be Mexican in regards to his heritage. His initial appearance was a bit of a mystery, with people simply wondering how Gunslinger Spawn had made his way to the future. But in issue number 3 of the Gunslinger Spawn series, we learned that this Gunslinger Spawn was definitely not who we expected when he left his Spawn form, revealing a completely different face from the one we'd expected when we believed he was Old Job. While there is still much for us to learn about Jovi in regards to his past and his origin, it is implied that Old Job's Hellspawn powers were somehow passed on to him. This version of Gunslinger Spawn first appeared back in Spawn issue 308 in July of 2020. Later, in Spawn Universe issue number 1, we would see him featured in a short story at the end of the comic where he had no discernible face, which is what made people assume that he was the original Gunslinger Spawn we were first introduced to back in the early 2000s. Number 8. Ellipses Howell. Ellipses Ellie Howell is one of the main characters from Crossover. Crossover is an ongoing Image Comics series that's currently on hiatus that jumps into the real world, telling the story of a literal crossover that happens between the comic book world and everyday Earth. As heroes and villains jump into the real world, chaos ensues, and it's up to the main characters to find a way out of this mess and back home. Ellipses Howell is one of these main characters. She herself is actually a fictional character, but a seemingly everyday person, despite being fictional. She's also one of the last few people in her story who is considered a true believer when it comes to the world of fiction and superheroes. She dresses up as one and has recently been seen in the comics wielding a sword that allows her to create portals into other worlds. I don't know about you, but I'd say that both her intentions and her ability to wield a badass portal creating sword makes her pretty heroic. Also, Ellie has a really cool name that definitely implies she is the one who has the symbolic thematic power to deal with this problem best. She was named Ellipses because her mom believed ellipses represent the idea of the impossible and the great unknown, and that her daughter would be capable of anything. Ellipses makes her first appearance in Crossover issue number 1, which was released through Image in November of 2020. Number 7. Radiant Black. Radiant Black is now a couple different people, but originally it was Nathan Burnett, who made his first appearance in Radiant Black issue number 1 and adopted the persona of Radiant Black, eventually brainstorming up his superhero name afterwards with his best friend Marshall. Radiant Black is basically like Power Rangers but for adults, and a series that involves a lot more mystery than the Power Rangers premise, which is pretty front-loading when it comes to the lore behind the Power Rangers in terms of their origin, where their powers come from, and why they were entrusted with these powers in the first place. In Radiant Black, many of these questions go unanswered to start, with us being given little hints along the way as to what is really going on with these Radiants mutants and their hosts. Honestly, it's a brilliant series, and one that has not only given us a super cool new hero in Radiant Black, but has also given us a super cool new cast of heroes with the Radiants, and beyond, a super cool new universe to explore with the Massiverse. Radiant Black issue number 1 was released via Image in February of 2021. Number 6. Berserker. The character that we initially only know as B is the protagonist of the series Berserker from Boom Studios. He is an ancient warrior, half god, half mortal, who is fighting to learn the truth of his origins and also to learn how to finally put an end to his life, as he is constantly driven towards bloodshed. He ends up accepting a mission to fight for the United States, participating in crazy, perilous, and deadly battles in exchange for this information on his own life. This series was written by Matt Kindt in collaboration with Keanu Reeves, which was where the hype came from for it, but it seems to have been a series that really delivered on this hype because a lot of people love it. While I have yet to read it myself, I have talked to those who have, and there are quite a few out there who just really love this series. It's definitely one that I need to read. The first issue of Berserker was released in March of 2021 and featured the mysterious bloodthirsty bee, who we'd later come to know as Berserker, and it's a property from Boom Studios. Number 5. Storm. Oh my goodness, I am super here for Storm's new look. Although honestly, when am I not here for a Storm look? I'm actually trying to think of a time that I didn't like what Storm was wearing, and I can't. But if you feel like Storm has had some questionable looks, let me know them down in the comments, because maybe I'll find something that I don't like Storm in. I doubt it'll happen, but it could happen. Right now though, I'm definitely a fan of her current 2023 look. It's a look that has been evolving since the dawn of X, and even though it is only one era in a long history of X-Men stories and eras, I will say, even in comparison to the beginning of the days of Krakoa, Storm looks quite different. And I mean that in the best possible way. Storm went from having a sleek, polished, modern design to what I would describe now as a more modern take on her punk era look, and yeah, I super love it. And friends, before I move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, be sure to show us you love us by clicking that subscribe button.
In it for The Flash. There is no doubt that The Flash has gone through many suits over the past few years, especially with the show having so many different versions for the Scarlet Speedster. However, with the show ending, the character is getting a whole new look in the upcoming Flash movie starring Ezra Miller. And while the cheap joke here would be saying that the new look is actually just the psycho behind the mask, the suits we're seeing in the trailers are pretty different to the suits that we've seen in the show that's been on for nearly a decade. The jokes made in the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover were about the actual possible uses for the different suits, with Grant's version making the comment that Ezra's was more protective and that his seemed like safer, whereas Ezra said that Grant's was more breathable and comfortable, which are qualities that seem to be embraced and enhanced in the movie versions, with the two Ezras having qualities related to like the lightning color of their speedster. The blue lightning being more in line with the original DCEU suit, since that version had blue lightning, but the orange or yellow lightning version being closer to Grant Gustin's version, which makes me think that they might have actually wanted Grant in that role, especially given why Ezra Miller was in the news, but I feel like Grant was probably like, yeah, no.
Number 3. Daredevil. Daredevil is currently in the midst of his Red Fist saga, and to match, he has a completely new look. What is new about it? Well, it comes with a pretty cool hood and some ninja-esque trappings, such as his face mask, which also helps him to match with the other Daredevil currently in town, Elektra. Elektra has been Daredevil as well for a while, ever since Matt had to go to prison to do some time. Which also means we have another new Daredevil look, because Elektra is Dee Dee as well right now, which is also still relatively new to comic readers. And not only that, but Elektra is also now Matt's wife. But despite that bit of what you'd think would be weird and unconventional marital bliss, Matt has currently been having a rough go, as he also was forced to fight against other heroes that he normally would simply call his colleagues and his friends, such as Spider-Man, who he actually kinda backstabbed in issue number 10 of Daredevil recently when Peter offered him an olive branch. Ouch. Oh, and Matt also is sporting a pretty wild beard right now, and I gotta say, it's a bit crazy, but I'm here for it. I love how it's just like his mask and then beard.
But ultimately, in at number 2, stature. Going from superhero daughter to superhero is one thing, and that's the story that was started in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. However, that's not the only change that Cassie Lang went through in 2023. Cassie was always fascinated by the quantum realm and eventually invented the quantum satellite, which led to her and her family being shrunken down into the realm and being trapped in Axia. Despite her father's reluctance, Cassie was determined to help the freedom fighters and became Stature, using her size-changing abilities to help fight against Kang's empire, but unfortunately, she and Ant-Man were eventually captured by MODOK, which was just, that was a whole that was a thing that happened in the movie. Oh boy. And were then interrogated by Kang, who threatened to harm Cassie unless Ant-Man actually retrieved the multiversal engine core, and it's a whole weird thing, okay? But Cassie's bravery and determination helped everyone in the movie. But despite her activism, the character was actually entirely recast post-Endgame by Marvel Studios, which caused actually a bit of turmoil online, since the original actress who played Cassie in Endgame was not informed about the decision. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? Love Catherine Newton, but given how the character had already appeared, it would make sense for the original actor to figure that they'd show up as them in the future. So yeah, you should probably inform them, since you've already kind of made that connection with them, but you didn't. So there you go.
Number 1, Superman. In truth, I was trying to keep this list not just super family members for my DC points, but the reality is that they probably have had some of the most dramatic makeovers in 2023 so far in regards to DC Comics. I could talk about some of the Titans redesigns, but even then, those outfits pretty much have all throwback elements. I mean, Donna Troy is almost 1-for-1 busting out one of her old costumes, although I do love those modernized takes on some of their older looks. When it comes to John Kent though, who is also Superman currently in the comics, formerly known as Superboy, like Kara's Power Girl, he recently received a different look and some changes to his powers. Although he didn't get a full-on new power set, he did get a more blue Superman-esque look when he gained the ability to supercharge, even overcharge, his solar energy stores, making him even more powerful than he was before. Not that he really needed that upgrade, goodness knows. However, there is a cost to using his newfound power stores. Doing so leaves him completely drained, making him basically human for a short while he charges back up. Also, Connor told me that John Kent was another character who was also recently recast in Superman and Lois, so he also has a completely new look on the CW side, as well as Michael Bishop takes over for Jordan Elsas, who left after season 2. So there you go, everyone's getting recast.
Number 10. Phone Panzee. During the Ninja Steel season of the show that ran in 2017 and 2018, the Rangers were forced into a gladiatorial-style intergalactic tournament called Galaxy Warriors. They faced many competitors who were trying to kill them and steal the Ninja Power Stars. Oh, that sounds important. One who actually came pretty close to besting the team was the contestant named Phone Panzee. As is implied by the name, he is a hybrid of a chimpanzee and a phone. Although he is a capable hand-to-hand combatant and can unleash basher bots upon his enemies, his real strengths come from the deception skills that his phone parts grant him. Not only can he use the speaker in his mouth to unleash a massive sonic boom that would send his enemies flying, but he could mimic voices with uncanny accuracy. This allowed him to imitate a ranger and then call up one of their teammates, who he would then draw into a trap and attack. The host of the Galaxy Warriors, Cosmo Royale, then used a Gigantify machine to turn Phone Panzee giant, forcing the Rangers to use their Zords to form the Ninja Steel Megazord and the Bull Rider Megazord. They defeated the giant monster, who promptly exploded. Okay, that's weird, but I think I'm following this okay so far. As long as the villains don't get any stranger than that, I should be fine. Number 9. Typeface. Oh come on, that's a keyboard! After the Ninja Steel season, fans of the Power Rangers were given the Super Ninja Steel season. Like Phone Panzee, Typeface is a contestant in the Galaxy Warriors. He could summon basher bolts and was an expert fighter, being able to hold his own against multiple Rangers at once, which is really impressive because he doesn't look like he'd be super mobile. He can fire lasers out of his hands and spacebar, which were powerful enough to incapacitate all 6 of the Rangers. And he is also a teleporter, but his real strength is more tech-based, which, yeah, I should hope so, otherwise the theming is kinda weird. He has a virus gun, which can infect the weapons of the Rangers, making them unable to effectively fight his with their Element Star Ninja Fire attack. The Rangers were eventually able to repair their weapons and attack Typeface, and Cosmo Royale repeated his strategy of growing Typeface into a giant monster who had to be defeated by a Megazord. However, this was a difficult task due to him being able to use his teleportation abilities to dodge several attacks and gain the upper hand for a while. However, the Rangers were eventually able to take him out with the Ninja Blaze Megazord's Ranger Blast final attack. Yeah, you gotta watch out for those. Number 8. Pandemonium. In the Mighty Morphin comic series, the new Green Ranger destroyed the Green Chaos Crystal, which left the infamous Lord Zed incapacitated. As he recovered in the Moon Palace, Zed's cronies discussed their options about what their next course of action should be. They considered eliminating their boss, but decided against it as it would require them to grow spines, and instead decided to try and capture the Green Ranger so that when Lord Zed awoke, he would have someone to vent his frustrations on other than them. They created a creature called Pandemonium, who was of course a panda who had super strength, as well as an entire arsenal of spears and axes sticking out of his back, which he could remove and use against the team. He could also give off massive energy blasts, which damaged anyone caught in his vicinity. The panda gave the team some trouble, but was defeated when the new Green Ranger showed up and used his dragon dagger to destroy the creature. Zed's cronies watched from afar and bemoaned that they had chosen too cute and cuddly of an animal to be their agent of destruction. Number 7. Horid King. In the Power Rangers comic series, the Rangers and Zordon are not on good terms, as the Rangers have taken off in a ship searching for a means of defeating the Imperials in deep space with the evil Lord Drakon serving as their guide. Things soon start going south when their ship stops working and they discover that they have been boarded by a frightening race of alien energy-draining vampires known as the Horid, and their king. The Horid were once a peaceful race of people, but their planet was destroyed when they attempted to control reality, trapping them in between dimensions, neither alive or dead. They learned that they could absorb other beings' life forces in order to take on a physical form. The Horid King led them across the galaxy looking for beings that they could absorb before coming across the Rangers. The king and all of his people cannot be harmed by physical attacks when in a non-physical form, as all weapons simply pass through them. However, if they have fed enough to take on a physical form, they become vulnerable. This weakness was exploited by Drakon, who killed the Horid King and took his place as the Horid's leader. Number 6. Vargoyle. Vargoyle, the robotic villain, was one of the early inventions of Skrozzle, but when they discovered something called the Fury Cells, Vargoyle used them to become powerful beyond measure, but also evil. Skrozzle escaped and Vargoyle followed, but eventually agreed to work for Evox in exchange for the Beast Powers upgrade. He was sent after the Rangers, where he feigned being weaker than he was to lull them into a false sense of security before unleashing his full might when they least expected it. He manages to install a memory rewriting machine in a local TV transmitting tower to wipe everyone's memories of his boss's previous attacks. This was undone, and he was destroyed by Devon's Beast X cannon. He was revived by the villain Ryjack, who wanted to form an alliance with Evox. This revived Vargoyle had an upgraded golden body, but was also fitted with a compliance collar, which he of course was not thrilled about. His teleportation and weapon summoning powers are handy, and his beast powers give him a real edge between his cheetah speed and gorilla strength, but it was not long before this evil robot was taken out again, never to be rebuilt.
Number 5. Twig. Who is Twig? Only the cutest adventuring hero that you will ever meet. He is so endearing, it makes me want to cry. Twig hails from his own self-titled series and begins issue number 1 by starting off on a journey. He has taken up the position that once belonged to his father as the new placeling. What is a placeling exactly? In this magical land, it is a crucial hero who actively saves the world on basically a daily basis, going out and undertaking massive and arduous quests. Twig never really wanted to be a placeling, he wanted to be a chef, but as a result of what suddenly happened to his father, he happens to be really the only one suitable and qualified to take up this position. Twig is just such a sweet character, like kind of a lovable goof, who does his best to live up to the responsibilities passed down to him. Also, the art in this book and the writing will not only make you fall in love with him, but also his best buddy, who resembles a banana slug, Splat, and honestly, the whole world, which kind of has like a dark crystal sort of feel to it. Twig is from Image Comics and made his first appearance in issue number 1 of his own series in May of 2022. Number 4. Rogue Sun. Rogue Sun is one of the newer heroes that we've gotten in the Massive-verse, so yes, there are Radiance and Radiant Black, but they aren't the only heroes in Kyle Higgins' Massive-verse. In the one-shot Supermassive from February 2022, we began to crack the world wide open and were introduced to 2 completely new heroes who existed in the same sort of universe, but not really in the same series, if that makes sense, as Radiant Black. One of them was Rogue Sun. Rogue Sun is actually a legacy hero, and after the death of the original Rogue Sun, Marcus Bell, his son, Dylan Siegel, is called upon to take his father's place. One major problem: Dylan isn't even sure he wants any of this, and he has a more than shaky relationship with his dad, even now knowing and understanding that all this time he was a superhero, and hence he may have had some somewhat valid reasons for his absence. And what's more, the powers that he inherits also seem to come with quite a bit of a catch in that regard. He kind of has to live with his dad's ghost in his head. Number 3. Inferno Girl Red. Inferno Girl Red! This is a hero I've been waiting to see come out in the comics for some time, ever since I first saw her appear. Well, Inferno Girl Red has only just had her solo series start to come out, which is limited, with 3 issues existing in book 1 of her series, which I believe implies there will be multiple books to this series. Inferno Girl Red herself first appeared in the supermassive one-shot in February 2022, just like Rogue Sun. However, we wouldn't get her in her solo series, where we'd get to learn even more about Cassie Acosta, the girl behind Inferno Girl Red, until January of 2023, with issue number 1 also coming from Image, where of course all the Massiverse is published and exists. In solicitation for the first issue, Cassia earns her place on this list as one of our newest ever superheroes from Indie Comics. She is literally described as, and I quote, the newest Image Comics superhero. In the first issue, we learn of how Cassie Acosta was mysteriously chosen to become the new Inferno Girl Red after her world was turned upside down in an instant. It feels like we're taking the category of magical girl to a whole nother level and also mixing in some like fabulous future sci-fi stuff with it, which I love because I love both of those categories. Number 2, The Chosen One. Vanish is just such a cool concept for a comic, and the main character is no exception to the amount of awesome involved here. If you love magical stories, this takes that idea and kind of just like turns it on its head. It answers the question of what happens to young heroes after the evil threat has been vanquished. But it takes a darker turn than most typical happy endings. In Vanish, we follow Oliver Harrison, who is that once young hero, the chosen one grown up. In a world now seemingly devoid of magic, he is haunted by the nightmares from his past and plagued by his own inner demons that he desperately tries at all costs to escape, all while seemingly living an otherwise mundane life. However, Oliver isn't just a washed-up former hero. He actually still has held on to a good amount of magic and skills from his past, and must use them to take action once more when a potential new threat appears on the horizon after more than about 20 years apiece, I'd say. Oliver's story is like what would happen to Harry in his adult years if he really didn't want to let go of his past glory and then learn that the Justice League was actually all made up of former Death Eaters. Number 1. Fedra Essex. Detective Fedra Essex is the main character of the series Black Cloak. She definitely has an extremely interesting backstory beyond even just her present-day story as a detective working in the last known city in all of the world, the city of Kyros. The land Fedra and her story inhabits is kinda like a cyberpunk world meets a fantasy land where magic still exists but is mostly seemingly coveted by the royals of this land, the privileged few. Fedra herself used to be a royal, or is a royal, but you know, one who has been exiled, so no longer acknowledging that status. The story only has 1 issue so far, so really she's quite new when it comes to like her appearance and what's going on with her. So we don't know that much about her just yet, but what we do know is that she is determined and unafraid of putting herself in dangerous situations, that is for sure. Fedra made her first appearance in Image Comics in Black Cloak issue number 1 in January 2023.
At number 10 are the Titans. After the events of this year's Dark Crisis, which culminated in the disbandment of the Justice League, what? Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman had a pep talk with Nightwing, wherein they basically tell him that it's time to straddle up and step up as the leader of a new team to protect the planet. The Teen Titans! I mean, no, not the just the Titans. Seems like the kiddos are all grown up now. And man, do they grow up fast. It's amazing what a lack of adjectives does to a name, right? Anywho, not only does this team bring back everybody from the original Teen Titans, including Beast Boy, Raven, Starfire, and Cyborg, but we've also got some newcomers like Wonder Girl and The Flash added into the roster. Personally, I was a huge fan of the original animated Teen Titans series, so to see the crew reunited after all these years just brings a tear to my eye. At number 9 is the New Avengers. The New Avengers roster this year is more stacked than it's ever been. It's pretty much the dream team. We've got, obviously, Tony Stark's Iron Man, Thor, Vision, T'Challa's Black Panther, Scarlet Witch, Sam Wilson's Captain America with the wings and everything, and the OP powerhouse of the group herself, Captain Marvel. Now, obviously, we're missing a few key players here, namely the non-powered powerhouses, those being Hawkeye and Black Widow. Also, the OG Cap is missing, who's actually still alive in this narrative. And also, Most notably, our big green boy is missing. Now, it seems like the theme here seems to be only heroes who can fly are allowed into this club, with the exception of T'Challa, who's got his own bat planes. Panther planes? Anywho, even though we're missing the green Goliath this time around, we've still got all kinds of muscle with this Avengers lineup. If you're enjoying the video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. It helps us get our video boosted to the algorithm, get seen by more people, and just all around, this is a nice thing to do, so go ahead, do that. At number 8 are the Super Twins. Meet Ortho Ra and Uzel Ra, descendants of an offshoot of Kryptonians called Phalosians. Hope I said that right. Now, these siblings had a tough start. See, the Phalosians were already an alienated race, having been exiled from Krypton and settling on a new homeworld called New Phalosia. Now, sometime later, their folks and older brother, let's say, got eliminated when World attacked the planet, leaving the twins enslaved and isolated from their family. Now, life got really tough for them after that. They wound up living in cells under an arena, part of a race enslaved by Warzone culture. The Warlord culture had brainwashed them into thinking that cruelty was strength and kindness was weakness. But now things took a turn when Mongol, the big boss, ordered the two siblings to fight each other to the death. Now they refused, but luckily enough, Superman swooped in to save the day. Long story short, teaching them that real strength comes from protecting others. Now, after a crazy breakout and some heroic deeds, eventually they landed on Earth, where Lois Lane and Clark Kent took them in, and voila, these super twins were born. Life on Earth was a bit tricky, especially for Ortho, but they're learning the ropes and becoming quite the heroes. At number 7 is the Maker's Council. Now, I know the Maker is typically seen as an evil Reed Richards, but the Maker's gang in this one has beef with Dr. Doom and Kang the Conqueror, so let's just say that this team is morally ambiguous, to say the least. I mean, the Maker here is pretty dark, but I mean, generally speaking, he's got humanity's best interest at heart, even if it comes at seriously grave cost. Anywho, in this reality, the world is split into 7 super states, and after conducting a variety of tests with iterations of experimental societies within his base of operations, the Maker grew convinced that enduring peace on Earth was unattainable due to humans' inherent nature. Yeah, I get it, dude, we're all a bunch of monkeys. As a result, he established a secret council composing of the leaders of each of the 7 territories, and together, they manipulated conflicts and alliances among their nations to unite their respective populations. So in the present day, the Eurasian Republic served as the designated rogue state that unified the other territories as a common foe, with the intention for this role to be rotated between each territory over time. So basically, it's George Orwell's 1984, except instead of Big Brother, it's the Maker. Pretty bleak, but hey, I guess if peace is unattainable, then controlled everlasting war is the next best thing? I don't know. At number 6 is the 13. Back in the 1940s, these guys were a mix of good and bad guys doing some morally ambiguous things. But then, bam! Time got all wonky thanks to Barry Allen and Dr. Manhattan messing around, and these 13 got wiped away from history. Now, lucky for them, the Time Masters stashed them away in these kind of snooze pods to keep them safe. But fast forward a little bit, and a dude named Per Degaton muddles things up again, and these pods go kaput. These 13 peeps pop back into history before everything's completely fixed. Now, the kicker here is that 8 of them were sidekicks to the OG heroes from the Golden Age. They got snatched up by Pathminder and chucked onto, get this, Orphan Island, a place somehow stuck outside of regular time. Then there was some epic showdown shenanigans. They team up with Stargirl, Red Arrow, Hourman, and beat the bad guys. But since they can't go back home to their old tie lines, Hourman zaps them to the present, and they become the Young Justice Society.
Number 5, Snageye. This robotic general was created to serve the Void Queen during the 2nd season of Dino Fury. He pledged his eternal loyalty to his queen, who demanded that he destroy the Rangers. He was given data on the Dino Fury Rangers' powers, which allowed him to easily defeat the 6 Rangers. The chessboard buckle on his torso contains a pocket dimension, which he was able to use to imprison his foes. It was only through the betrayal of the Void Knight that the Rangers were able to escape the pocket dimension. He then went up against the Red Ranger, who managed managed to destroy this robot bishop general using the Dino Knight Strike. So, though he was only in one episode, the fact that he was able to absolutely wipe the floor with the Rangers is pretty impressive. Number 4. Wreckmate. Yet another Dino Fury villain. Wreckmate has a lot of themes going on at once. He is a robot who looks like a rook from a chess set, but he's also a pirate as well as a general. He's just a lot. He's a lot. He was built from the parts of a boat, but became a giant when the Void Knight gave him a Sporix. The Dino Fury Rangers fought him underwater in their Dino Fury Megazord warrior formation, but Wreckmate proved too powerful and was able to defeat the Megazord. Before he could destroy it, he was interrupted by the Moza Razor Zord and presumed dead. He entered a competition with his rival teammate Slither to see who could kill the most Rangers, with the loser having to leave forever, though both were of course unsuccessful and unable to score a point. He served the Void Queen soon after, often clashing with and failing to defeat the Rangers. He has shoulder-mounted cannons which can fire cannonballs, energy blasts, lasers, and torpedoes. As a pirate ship-themed robot chess piece, he was of course capable of surviving underwater like a submarine, making him just as dangerous on land as he was on water. Number 3. General Tynamon. Going back to the Super Ninja Steel season, where the Rangers were involved with the whole Galaxy Warriors thing, Tynamon was the manager of one of the most famous fighters, Brax, but was hiding a small secret. It turns out that Tynamon was in fact a small creature who, embarrassed by his small stature, had constructed a robot body to make himself look bigger. Tynamon, Tiny Man, I get it, cute. So Tynamon was approached by the villainous Madame Odious, who offered to grow Tynamon to the size he desired if he and Brax would help her destroy the Rangers. He agreed and began a campaign against the heroes. His main weapon is his staff, which can create a protective barrier and can fire a rope line to ensnare and move his enemies. In his final battle with the Rangers, he is hit by the Gigantify Ray, letting him finally achieve his dream of being huge. This was short-lived, however, and he was defeated by the Ninja Steel Ultrazord Blast and died, never really having gotten the opportunity to enjoy his new size. Number 2. King Aridon. Our next villain was actually mentioned in passing by Zordon in Power Rangers Zeo all the way back in 1996, but we didn't get to actually meet this king until just last year in the Mighty Morphin comic book series. After Earth was weakened by the Altarian War and Earth's command center was destroyed, the ruler of the Automaton Dominion, King Aridon, decided to take advantage of the situation and sent scouts to the command center's ruins, where they tried to ambush the Red Ranger. He decided that Earth was ripe for the taking and declared himself ruler with the aid of his general, Count Karnakas. He offered to spare the Green Ranger's life if he stepped aside and allowed the king to destroy Zordon. When the Ranger refused, the two entered a heated battle, which was aided by Red Ranger Rocky, who helped the Rangers triumph over the evil king. Number 1. Leisure. This villain appeared in an episode of the Dino Supercharge season and is vaguely summer themed. There is so much going on visually with this character. She has an ice cream cone for an arm and a lobster claw coming out of a sun hat for the other. She has fish pants and palm trees for eyes. The longer I look at this villain, the more I feel like I'm having a stroke. 100,000 years ago, Leisure used her vacation ray on the cavemen, which made them all want to take a break from their work and go on vacation. This got so bad that everyone almost starved as no one was hunting, but she was imprisoned in a cave and the effects of her beam were reversed, and as a result, we got hustle culture. She was accidentally released by the Rangers and, despite looking so odd, turned out to be extremely powerful, beating the 7 Rangers with ease before firing her vacation beam on the entire planet, making everyone, including the Rangers, just stop what they were doing to go on vacation. They eventually attacked Leisure with the Plesio Charge Megazord, but she used her ice cream arm triple scoop twist attack to defend herself. She was eventually defeated, and everyone got back to work. Yay!
Number 10. Ash. Ash is really just known as Ash, I believe, in the comics, but he's also been separately identified as Ash II or Ash II as well, because there's already a Green Lantern who is known by the name of Ash from the New Earth continuity, who is considered to be, I would say, slightly at least more well known, having made more appearances. Ash is a thief, it's true, but he was known for being a mostly harmless, non-violent criminal, and when the Lazarus Storm caught both him and Superman up in it, he actually rose to the occasion and helped an unconscious Superman get to safety. However, he's still definitely learning how to be a hero, I'd say, if he's on that path. Superman, you see, was in the middle of apprehending him for stealing when the storm hit. And although Ash had helped Superman with the fallout from this storm, rescuing people and rounding up criminals, Superman said that well, he'd still have to report him to the authorities for his earlier misdeeds. Ash then pretended that the powers he'd gained from the Lazarus Storm had worn off, and after Superman handed him over to the police, then revealed they actually hadn't, and used his powers, of course, to escape, stealing Superman's abandoned cape afterwards. Ash made his first and, I believe, only appearance thus far in Lazarus Planet Assault on Krypton issue number 1 in January, and was created by C.S. Picot and Scott Godlewski. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, if you love when we talk about superheroes, we got a superhero playlist for you and you can check that out.
Number 9. Ironfire. First introduced in the Sins of Sinister timeline, John Ironfire became so damn popular that he made it into the Earth 616 timeline. So, while the idea for this character was first seen in 2022, the actual 616 Ironfire came to us in X-Men Red Volume 2, number 11 in May 2023, and while it may be cheating, I am totally gonna use him because he is awesome. Ironfire is a mutant from Morocco with the power to turn his blood into metal that he can then control. In one of his first appearances, Ironfire uses his powers to create metal claws, kind of like Wolverine, but his abilities are so much more than just making claws. Ironfire can use his metal blood to create horns, armor, and he's even created molten bullets that he can shoot at enemies. During Sins of Sinister, he serves as a right-hand man to Storm in her Brotherhood and lives hundreds of years into the future, eventually looking a lot like Odin. It's actually really cool. After the conclusion of Sins of Sinister, he arrives in the main 616 continuity, where it is revealed that he is a member of the White Swords 100 Champions, an army that wages an eternal battle in the land of Amenth. Ironfire is the last of these warriors, arriving on Arakko with the White Sword's blade Purity. He warns the Iraqi mutants that Genesis, the wife of Apocalypse, is coming to conquer the planet, and he stands with them.
Number 8. Marge. Marge was a new hero from Subatomica. Not a place we go very often lately in the comics, I would say. She made her first appearance in the 2023 run of Scarlet Witch in issue number 3, first appearing in March of the same year. She was created by Steve Orlando and Sarah Pichelli. She's one of the folks who was in desperate need of help with no one else to turn to, and so, of course, Wanda's last door appeared before Marge, who chose to walk through it and found herself transported to Lock Hill, New York, and to Wanda's magic emporium there. Marge was one of the last survivors of her people, the Tri-Fan, who came from, of course, Subatomica. She was searching for an artifact known as the Sword in the Star that would help to rally her people against alien invaders known as the Nilan, who sought to conquer Trifa and claim it as their own home after eradicating the Tri-Fans. No longer blood-related, but still sisters, Polaris and Scarlet Witch teamed up to help Marge in her quest, and succeeded in helping her find a symbol that could be used to rally her people.
Number 7. Tuu II. In Marvel Comics, there is a race known as Luminous, aka the Watchers. They were the first advanced species of the universe and committed themselves to observing and compiling knowledge on all aspects of the universe without any interference. Now, the most famous of these Watchers would be Uatu the Watcher, who hangs out on Earth 616's moon and just kind of observes, occasionally showing up when a story is going to be really big, or at least that's how it used to be. We have seen other Watchers before as well, but this year's Ben Grimm miniseries Clobber in Time introduced us to Tuu II, the Banished One. Now, not a whole lot is known about him at first, except that he is battle-scarred with some cool armor, various cybernetic enhancements, and a futuristic-looking arsenal. It's later revealed that he broke away from the other Watchers seeking to become a god, and therefore assisted the new multiversal villain known as Ogdu Phraze. But Phraze is a villain, so when Phraze betrayed Tuu II and stole his all-vision powers, the Banished One decided to join up with the Thing to help stop Ogdu Phraze once and for all.
Number 6. Zephyrus. Zephyrus was a goddess who ended up becoming part of Mary Marvel of the Shazam family's new pantheons of gods. Zephyrus was known before that as an Olympian goddess of the West Wind. While it's presumed that, in canon, this of course would make her ancient in terms of how long she'd actually been around in the story, in regards to her first appearance in the comics themselves, she hadn't made herself known until 2023. She made her first appearance in Lazarus Planet Revenge of the Gods, issue number 4 in April of 2023.
At number 5 are the Thunderbolts. Not to be confused with the original team put together by Baron Zemo, this new squad emerged after the Outer Circle got taken down. When Bucky Barnes, who got all the Outer Circle secrets, teamed up with a person called Contessa Valentina Alguera de Fontaine, that's a name. But guess what? She wasn't the real one, she was actually a fake. And they decided to join forces and make a gang called the Thunderbolts to crush the Red Skull and his whole operation. The crew got bigger when they got on board the Destroyer and the Red Guardian for a mission to wreck Red Skull's base in Argentina. And long story short, they won, they took out the Red Skull's main body, and basically just wrecked the whole setup. At number 4 are the Super Kids. So the reason this team got together was because apparently they were too young to join the Teen Titans. It's definitely saying a lot. Now, their story is pretty wild. It all began when some bad guys tried to mess with time, trying to erase 2 of the core members, Animal Girl, and the Flash Twins before they could become heroes. But guess what? Backfired big time. Instead of erasing them, it brought them face to face with their future teammates, Robin and Superboy. And just like that, Super Kids were born. So let's break it down. We've got Animal Girl, also known as Maxine Baker, with her animal powers. Then there's Jai West as Surge and Ivory West as Thunderheart, the speedy Flash Twins. And of course, Robin and Superboy rounding out the squad. At number 3 is the Spider Society. There was no way I was going to make a video about new superhero teams without bringing up an entire collection of my favorite hero from across the multiverse, which made its debut in this year's Across the Spider-Verse movie. The Spider-Verse Society is led by Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099, with this movie being his first cinematic debut. In fact, we got all kinds of Spider-Men who we were praying would make it to the big screen one day, from classics like Ben Reilly, Spider-Man's clone from the Clone Saga, to more obscure ones like Peter Parked Car. Love that. After surviving a universe-ending event, Miguel went around picking up Spideys from all over, their mission being to preserve the multiverse from any conceivable threat, all convening at Spider HQ on Earth 928, to which they travel to using their trusty little dimension-hopping watches. Because Spidey's a genius, don't forget. At number 2 is the Blood Syndicate. The Blood Syndicate, made up of former gang members from Dakota City, is no ordinary super team. They banded together to take down a menacing villain and then protect their turf, Paris Island. Each member had their own rough past, hailing from different gangs and areas of the city. But when this villain threatened to rule the criminal underworld with violence, these superhumans united against him. In their first standoff, the Blood Syndicate really did not do justice. They fought individually instead of working as a team, leading to their quick defeat and separation. However, Flashback, one of their own, took a bold step at traveling back in time to warn them about their impending loss. Now with this crucial knowledge, the Syndicate regrouped, launching a fierce coordinated attack, and this time they fought as a team, leaving the villain defenseless. Fate immobilized him, and Tech-9 delivered the final blow, putting an end to the threat once and for all. And coming in at number 1 are the Dark XMen, who are back again this year. Madeline Pryor's new Dark XMen are about to show no mercy, and it's gotta be awesome. Along with the Goblin Queen herself, we've also got Maggot, Archangel, Gambit, Gimmick, Azrael, M-Plate, Zero, and Havoc. Basically a dream team of the X-Men's most lethal heroes. So after the massive party called the Hellfire Gala, Madeline Pryor, who's got some history with the X-Men, leads this new strike team featuring some prominent OG X-Men members like Havoc and Gambit, who are back, but they've never teamed up like this before under such dire circumstances. Now, without giving too much away, this team is set to be among the X-Men's brutal incarnations. I mean, just look at the opening sequence of the first issue of this comic series with Madeline Pryor envisioning her global takeover. It's dark. To say it's dark is an understatement.
Number 10, Nightbuster. Nightbuster is new to superheroing, but is super cute. And of those that are on our list is one that I know super well, considering I have been continuing to collect Nightwing all this year. It was my only comic of the big 2 that I allowed myself to keep collecting. She is Olivia Desmond and was the daughter of Roland Desmond, aka Blockbuster, and get this, Jezebel Jet. Remember Jezebel Jet? Yeah. She is the daughter of those 2 villains, and yet she will probably grow up to become a hero. Her foster father is Nightwing, who also rescued her from having her soul claimed by Neron. Neron had basically acquired a contract for Olivia's soul, which Roland had promised Neron in exchange for his own upon his death, because he didn't want his soul to be claimed, so he was like, how about I give you my daughters instead? It was all super creepy. When Blockbuster was killed, Neron came a-knockin', and fortunately, Nightwing, with some help from the Titans and Oracle, was able to keep Olivia safe. She would be revealed to have inherited her father's super strength and agreed to train and live with the Amazons on Themyscira, taking up the mantle of Nightbuster. Olivia made her first appearance in Nightwing issue number 98, the 4th volume of the Nightwing title, and she was created by Tom Taylor and Daniel Di Nucquello. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, and if you love when we talk about superheroes, know that we have a whole gigantic superhero playlist for you to check out. Number 9, Recwrap. Oh my goodness, I love Recwrap. While I honestly wasn't a big fan of the Dark Web Spider-Man based event overall, Recwrap was a part of that event and was a character that we got from it that honestly, I loved. Recwrap is a demon who was inspired by Spider-Man's Peter Parker to become a hero himself. He initially was known by the name of Parker Man before he adopted the mantle Recwrap, which of course is just Parker backwards, Recwrap. His powers are similar to Spider-Man's, combined with that of a symbiote, and instead of web slinging, he prefers to call what he does with his organic webs web wanging. I really hope we see more of him in the comics. Recwrap made his first appearance in Amazing Spider-Man issue number 17 of the current volume, which we know officially as volume number 6 of ASM. Recwrap was created by Zeb Wells and Ed McGuinness. Number 8, Noone. Probably one of the most iconic superheroes to make their debut appearance in 2023 for me was the vigilante we've come to know as Noone. Very mysterious. They are not exactly your typical hero, but I think that's what makes them so interesting. Noone is from the comic of the same name and made their first appearance in said comic in issue 1 back in March. The character was created by Kyle Higgins, Brian Buccellato, and Geraldo Borges. They don't necessarily seem to have any superpowers per se, but are an extremely skilled fighter and rely on tech, gadgets, and their skills to accomplish their goals. Their focus is on calling out those who are corrupt and holding them accountable. As the saying goes, no one is above the law, but of course they are no one. The whole series centers around the mystery of who's under the mask and all of the events that happen around them, and that's also part of what makes the story of Noone so interesting. That and the fact that it's a multimedia story told through the comic and interchanging episodes of a podcast, where various characters are actually voiced, so you can actually also hear what they sound like. There's also a website that you can go to, Noone's website, where if you know the right code, you can learn more about their secrets as well. So the immersiveness and interactivity of this story are also a huge part of what I love about it. The story centered around Noone, which is set in Pittsburgh. Number 7, Rasputin 4. If you are a House of X / Powers of 10 fan, you might be wondering how we can consider Rasputin 4 as a new hero. Well, that's because this version of her is technically an alternate in comparison to the first version that we saw of her in that beginning to the Krakoan era. This version of the character comes from an alternate reality created by Sins of Sinister. A version of Mr. Sinister created Rasputin 4 as a chimera hybrid mutant from the samples of 5 genetic powerhouses, also like in the beginning of the Krakoan era. However, after doing so, he realized he had made himself obsolete and began to feel regret for what he'd done to get him to where he was. He actually freed Rasputin from her conditioning, confessed his sins to her, and begged for her help in getting back a device that would basically return the world to how it was during the Paradise Krakoan era, which he of course had destroyed. They did not succeed in their mission, but Rasputin would eventually have her mind sent back to the time of Krakoa, allowing her to capture Sinister and have him punished for his crimes by the Quiet Council. Rasputin made her first appearance in Immoral X-Men issue number 2 and was created by Kieran Gillen and Lucas Wernick. She is a combination of Colossus, Quentin Quire, Unis the Untouchable, Talon aka Laura Kinney, and Shadowcat aka Catherine Pride. Spider-Boy. Love him or hate him, Spider-Boy is here. Although it seems a little weird in regards to the timing of when he arrived, considering that he came in after Marvel had decided to get rid of Ben Reilly because, well, too many Spider-Men / Spider-themed heroes. Too many. And then enter Spider-Boy. Interesting. Spider-Boy is Bailey Briggs. He made his first appearance in Spider-Man issue number 7, the current run, which is considered to be the 4th overall volume of purely just Spider-Man, the Spider-Man title. Not to be confused with Amazing Amazing Spider-Man, which is also about Spider-Man, but it's just a different title. I know it's confusing, but just go back to the 90s, you'll be even more confused. Got Web of Spider-Man, you got all these comics. His DNA was spliced with the spider by Madame Monstrosity, which gave him spider powers and turned him into a human spider hybrid. He was created by Dan Slott and Humberto Ramos.
Number 5. Redwin. Marvel's New Gods series has been teased for months with backup stories in the pages of various Marvel Comics titles giving us glimpses into what's happening and the premise of this story. Each of the story's key players has shown up in these back pages, including what seems to be the main player, a guy called Wynn. Also known as Sir Redwin, Wynn is the avatar of the Powers That Be, an ancient entity or group that ultimately oversees all things strange and magical in Marvel Comics. Now, Wynn received the role of Avatar over a millennium ago, and has served faithfully in safeguarding the universe. Thanks to his long life and his knack for always landing in hot water somehow, he knows how to get himself out of a tight spot, even as he begrudgingly performs his duties. I've seen him often compared to DC's Constantine, and I think that's somewhat accurate, especially in the personality department. Wynn's position as the avatar of the Powers That Be is only one half of the overarching mythology introduced in Gods. The direct opposite of the Powers That Be are the natural order of things, and they oversee all things purely and perfectly scientific. Now, rather than having a single representative in the form of an avatar like Wynn, the natural order of things is represented by 100 immortal individuals who comprise the Centum, and one of them is Wynn's wife, Eiko Maki.
Number 4. Pravitar Pravikar. Okay, so this might kind of be cheating, but I am just so excited for Spider-Man India to get some actual major time in the spotlight, and I loved his characterization so much in the animated Spider-Verse universe / multiverse, I guess, that I had to include him here. He actually does come from the same designated Earth number that his comic book counterpart comes from, but I think we still need to consider them alternates of one another, as the animated films still kind of have their own story, which is separate and unique from the comics. Spider-Man India was one of my favorites of the new Spider-Man characters we were introduced to in the animated film. He is Pravitar Pravikar, a young man who has only been Spider-Man on his Earth for 6 months, and already seems to be a straight up master at it, having also been recruited by the Spider Society, which obviously Miles, that makes him feel pretty insecure as a hero. He first appeared in the animated sequel to Into the Spider-Verse Across the Spider-Verse in June of 2023. His creation credits are the same as the version that first appeared in the comics in 2004. He was created by Christopher Miller, Phil Lord, and Dave Callahan.
Number 3. Dimitri the Science Boy. Wynn, as the avatar of the Powers That Be, and the Centivars of the natural order of things are all bound by an ancient deal that dictates that the avatar and each Centivar must have a proxy from the other side. For Wynn, his proxy is the analytical and socially oblivious Dimitri Krakow, or Dimitri the Science Boy. Dimitri has always been drawn to technology, which would actually make him perfect for the natural order of things, but instead, he became the begrudging chained apprentice to Wynn. Jonathan Hickman described Dimitri as an orphan who fell into his path out of tragedy, and he's always been looking to find out what happened during a mysterious event that propelled him into the role he has now. What's cool is how Wynn and Dimitri get sick of each other sometimes and will just go separate ways until they have to come back together, like when, thanks to Wynn, they both got thrown into a ghost prison, whatever that means, and Dimitri got sick of Wynn, going to Sevalith and getting in a relationship with a vampire, while Wynn went to a hot spring for mystics in Jotunheim until they needed to come together once again for this story. One of the best things about new heroes like the ones on this list is that we get to uncover more and more about them as their comics come out, and I think Dimitri may be one that I'm going to pay a lot of attention to.
Number 2. Mia the Magic Girl. Mia the Magic Girl is a new hero in the world of comics. She made her first debut appearance only recently in November in Gods issue number 2, so she is super duper new. Initially, we didn't know much about her when she was first announced as a character, and I think part of that is also because her identity and role in the story is meant to be somewhat mysterious. We're supposed to uncover it as the story unravels. But with her appearance in Gods issue number 2, we got to know a little bit more about her and her origin story. She is inherently magical, and her birth parents are largely unknown to her, as she spent most of her childhood growing up in an orphanage after she was abandoned. The Centum has taken an interest in studying her and has offered knowledge in exchange for her permission to do so.
And finally, in at number 1 today is Circuit Breaker. During the Lazarus Planet crossover event, a volcanic eruption leads to Lazarus resin raining down and empowering people all over the world. One of those people was Jules Jourdain, a new transmasculine superhero going by the name Circuit Breaker, who debuted on Valentine's Day 2023. Now, we haven't seen much of Circuit Breaker yet, but he will reportedly wield a power called the Still Force, a counterpoint to DC's Speed Force, which gives super quick heroes like the Flash their power. Now, first introduced in 2018's Justice League number 2, the Still Force is a cosmic force based on inertia, and people who tap into it can suspend motion and even aging, which Gorilla Grodd did when he temporarily stopped the expansion of the entire universe. Being a trans character in DC Comics, we don't know yet how much relevance Jules' gender will have to the overall plot of his stories, but it's reflected in his character design in a few subtle ways. The coolest being the lightning bolt designs on his vest and chest, intentionally designed to resemble top surgery scars. While indie comics have been lush with representation for a while, mainstream superhero comics have lagged far behind in representation, and as one of DC's biggest new heroes, Circuit Breaker is a welcome addition. Coming in at number 10 is Doom's Mutants. Slag, Nerium, Volta, Ironcloak, and the Dreamer. 5 new mutants revealed to us for the first time in the 29th issue of the current Fall of X-Men run. But while the rest of the mutant population is scattered, imprisoned, in the white hot room, on Mars, or otherwise not having a very good time, these 5 mutants are sitting pretty in Latveria under the direction and protection of Dr. Victor Von Doom. This is Dr. Doom's mutant team, and they are very capable. A small group of X-Men, Wolverine, Shadowcat aka Kitty Pryde, and the newly revealed mutant Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, went into Latveria to liberate these mutants, only to find themselves getting completely clobbered. The two twins, Dreamer and Ironcloak, can enter dreams and grant invulnerability, respectively. Volta can seemingly control potent amounts of electricity or lightning, and she directs and controls this with a vibranium spear, which she used to block and fry one of Wolverine's claw arms. Slag is a massive bruiser because every team's gotta have one, and essentially his skin is rock and his blood is magma, and he looks awesome. And last but not least is Nerium, who has 4 arms that are seemingly made of plant life that she can control, creating vines and healing and all that jazz. Now, we haven't seen these mutants at full power yet, and there are 2 that haven't been revealed to us yet, but they seemingly may be allies despite being allied with Dr. Doom, so we shall see. Number 9, Chakal. Switching over to the DC comic universe here, most people know Lobo. And if you don't, he's basically like Jason Momoa mixed with Gene Simmons from Kiss with the makeup and everything. He comes from a race known as the Zarnians, and these guys have extremely high levels of regeneration, being able to recover from just droplets of their own blood. Lobo himself is an extremely capable bounty hunter with strength on par with Superman, and he's effectively immortal. But for the longest time, he also believed himself to be the very last of the Zarnians. Well, in 2023's Superman Volume 6, issue number 7, it turns out there's a whole army of Zarnians led by one General Chakal. Chakal's army were so violent and psychotic that Zarnia had erased them from their own history books. They were somehow captured by Brainiac, who miniaturized them and imprisoned them in a bottle city, where they promptly began fighting each other. Chakal eventually agreed for his people to serve as Brainiac's shock troops in exchange for their own freedom. Number 8, the Stark Sentinels. Now, it's safe to say that this entry isn't exactly a villain. It's more like the tool of a villain, or more specifically, an organization. As part of the Fall of X event that is going on right now in Marvel Comics, anti-mutant industrialist Fei Long embedded himself in Tony Stark / Iron Man's company, Stark Unlimited, and essentially stole the company. He then secretly funneled its resources into the construction of new mutant hunting Sentinels, which are based on the technology of the Iron Man armor, taking advantage of Tony Stark's recent divestment from the company. Now, first appearing in Invincible Iron Man Volume 5, issue number 5 from April 2023, one of the first Sentinels chased off Tony Stark in his own Iron Man armor, showing its power. Now, later on, another Sentinel was sent to New York City, where it helped to contain a fire, only for the machine to target a firefighter who happened to also be a mutant. This brought the Sentinel into conflict with the X-Men, where it showed it was very capable, but still fallible, as the mutant magic was able to cut it to pieces and Jean Grey was able to crush it. But But now, with hundreds of these Sentinels running around, and with Orcus having organized a brutal weakening of the mutant race, the Stark Sentinels pose a huge problem for the mutants. Number 7. Trav. Trav is one of many clones created by another new villain named Dominator X to be sold as living weapons. Now, like his teammates, the Cosmeteers, Trav's DNA was heavily modified from the baseline of his parent Daxamite species. However, while the genetic modification made his fellow Cosmeteers more powerful than a typical member of their species, Trav was born without any of the typical Daxamite powers, as Dominator X wanted to use him as a technopath, and the Daxamite weakness to lead would make him unsuitable for that role. Now, Trav was extremely bitter and resentful of being robbed of his powers, but he was also given extensive cyborg augmentation, including a bionic arm and a near-indestructible artificial spine containing his mind, which could move independently and possess another living being as a last resort if his own body was destroyed. Now, in Superboy the Man of Tomorrow, Superboy has teamed up with the Cosmeteers, and they are all attacked by Dominator X, who unleashes his ultimate clone weapon, Infinity, on the young heroes. But Trav, being the leader of the Cosmeteers, reveals that he has Dominator X's previous clones under his control, and he uses them to tear Infinity apart. But then, Trav reveals that he's been making clones of his own, and specifically a clone of Superboy himself with all Superboy's strength but no personality or morals to guide it. He essentially made a giant living weapon for Trav or whoever gains control of it to use however they want, and that could be the beginning of a huge problem for the DC universe, and it's all thanks to Trav. Number 6. Tyrannos. Okay, so I may or may not be getting this correct, but the Elder God and Thor villain known as Tyrannos is a new and also not entirely new villain in Marvel Comics. His first actual appearance comes to us in Immortal Thor #1 from August of 2023, when the Elder God travels to New York, because of course he does, and here Tyrannos reveals himself to be from Utgard, or Utgard, and to be the Utgard version of Thor. So, essentially, to explain this, Tyrannos was an Elder God who was formed during the formation of the Earth. So yeah, he's from a long time ago. He was sealed away in Utgard for thousands of years by his sister, Gaia, who used to be believed to be Thor's mom, but now it's the Phoenix Force. Anyways, Utgard is a place that is outside of reality, and it is a place that we have actually seen before. Utgard is the realm of those who sit above in shadow, essentially the gods of the gods. These guys are the ones that Thor probably upset when he was Rutin King Thor and basically destroyed the cycle of Ragnarok. Anyways, essentially wishing things to be better than they were, Gaia unlocked her sibling out of imprisonment alongside Utgard Loki, and she sent Tyrannos to Earth to test her son Thor, which is when he formed a Thor core, and it was so awesome.
Number 5. Deadeye. Deadeye is the nephew of Amanda Waller. He's not exactly straight up a hero, but he also isn't exactly a bad guy either. It's kind of complicated. And he's pretty cool looking and definitely new as of this year, so I'm gonna include him here on this list. He made his first appearance in Lazarus Planet, Next Evolution, issue #1. Oh boy, Lazarus Planet was a weird time, but hey, at least we got some cool characters like Deadeye out of it. Deadeye's name is Archie Waller, and he's only made a couple of appearances, so we don't really know too much about him just yet. His power set is based in the realm of psionics, having psychic and telepathic powers, but he also has demonstrated super strength as well. He can travel to the astral plane, travel to different dimensions, and also has a certain level of cosmic awareness. He was created by Chuck Brown and Alita Martinez. Number 4. Misery. Misery is the symbiote who ended up being bonded to Liz Allen. A copy of the symbiote also existed and was bonded to a chimpanzee named Grace. Initially, Grace the chimpanzee, once stabilized, sought to get revenge on Liz, but Liz was in essence saved by her newfound abilities through being bonded to Misery. Misery is a pretty powerful symbiote due to them being a combination of both the anti-venom symbiote and Carnage, which both also oppose each other. Thanks to them constantly battling and attempting to destroy one another and healing, Misery has an insane healing factor. Misery made their first appearance in Cult of Carnage Misery issue #1 and was created by Sabir Perzada and Francesco Motorino. Number 3. Trinity. We love ourselves a heroic alternate version of a superhero's child. And if you are one of the folks who really love potential superhero kids from alternate futures, then you're gonna love this new hero, Trinity. Trinity is Elizabeth Lizzie Marston Prince. She is the daughter of Wonder Woman and an unknown man in a potential potential future. In her reality, she is also the future leader of the Justice League. She grew up alongside fellow super kids Damian Wayne and John Kent, who she looked up to as they were kind of like her older brothers. Her powers are similar to her mother's, and she also possesses the 3 lassos of fate. Lizzie was created by Tom King and Daniel Semper and made her first appearance in the legacy numbered issue number 800 of Wonder Woman. Number 2, 97. 97, or Ikomaki, is one of the new immortal and mysterious beings we've come to know through Jonathan Hickman's God series. She is part of an epic war that has gone on for, well, seemingly forever, between sort of the god of science and the god of magic. 97 serves the god of science, known as the natural order of things, as one of their main agents, being the last of the prime number centivars in their service. They have 100 centivars total, and she is the last prime because she's, number 97. She even gave up her relationship with the love of her life, Wynn, her once husband, who was secretly the avatar of the rival god of magic, which is known as the powers that be. 97 made her first appearance in Uncanny Avengers issue number 1, the 4th volume in the Uncanny Avengers title. She was created by Jonathan Hickman and Vallejo Scitti. Number 1, Kyle the Catboy. Kyle the Catboy is an interesting one. He's more of a neutral figure, but he does end up working with heroes at one point, so I'd still say he's more hero than villain, so I'm gonna count him. And honestly, most of the bad stuff that he's done in his life hasn't really been focused on hurting people or anything like that, but more on surviving. He was a criminal who spliced his DNA with a cat, becoming a splicer. He hails from the Future's End reality and ends up teaming up with Batman there, who in this reality of course is Terry McGinnis. His name is a variation on Selina Kyle, with it being Kyle Salinas. Kyle was also at one point taken in by John Constantine and taught magic by his mentor, but while he thought Constantine actually cared for him, he'd later learned that Constantine had actually unloaded all his curses on him so he could die peacefully and without burden. Ouch. Catboy first appeared in Batman Neo-Gothic issue number 1 and was created by Colin Kelly, Jackson Lansing, and Max Dunbar.
In at 10, Green Arrow. Oliver Queen. The young heir to a billion-dollar corporate empire at Queen Industries led a reckless and extravagant lifestyle that deeply disappointed his father. In an attempt to teach him responsibility, Oliver was assigned clerical duties on an oil rig in the Pacific, but he was unfazed because he ended up turning the rig into a party hotspot. However, one fateful night, people hijacked a helicopter that was intended for a rock star and then took control of the rig. Ignoring his friend's caution, Oliver confronted these people, armed with only a bow and arrow, a skill that he had learned from his father. They were holding on to a detonator for a cache of explosives, some of which were strapped to Oliver's girlfriend Lena. With a single shot, Oliver knocked the detonator from that leader's hand, but it still triggered an explosion, resulting in the death of his girlfriend. Tommy, Oliver's friend, sacrificed himself to shield Oliver from the blast, suffering severe burns in the process, but it ended up causing Oliver to be shipwrecked on a deserted island. Started a year-long journey of survival, relying solely on his bow and arrow. So it's not exactly like the TV show version. I want to see Green Arrow in the DCEU. In at 9, Robin. Robin is a prominent character in Batman's crime-fighting endeavors. I mean, it's literally Batman and Robin. Is his sidekick, his partner in not crime. Over the years, there's been 5 people who have held the mantle of Robin. Dick Grayson, who was a young acrobat with a tragic past. Jason Todd, he was the second Robin, who was just a troubled orphan. Basically, I want any Robin. Sure, Tim Drake became Red Robin, was like an independent contractor, and then there was like Stephanie Brown, who was the 4th Robin, and then there was Damian Wayne, the current and 5th Robin, but like still, okay, there needs to be some form of Robin in the DCEU, especially since George Clooney came back. In at 8, Amalgamverse. When 2 entities known as the Brothers, the embodiments of both the Marvel and DC multiverses, remembered each other's existence, they forced heroes and villains from their respective realities to battle. The winner would then get to destroy the loser and their own respective multiverse. This was the Marvel vs. DC storyline. To prevent this from happening, however, the Living Tribunal and the Spectre joined forces and combined the 2 universes together, creating the Amalgam universe. This universe had its own unique history, which was was like a combination of both multiverses. So, with this new universe, there are plenty of combined heroes with incredible abilities. From Superman and Captain America to Iron Lantern and Superboy and Spider-Man, like Dr. Fate, Doctor Strange, and Professor X all put into one. There's tons of insane characters in this universe that I would absolutely love to see. Like, Lobo and Howard the Duck is a hilarious one. Like, I need it in live action, and I need it bad. Along with Ghost Rider and Flash combined, okay? And not to mention Red Skull and Lex Luthor. I'd love to see some of these guys in the new DCEU, especially because that would be such a huge event. Please do it. That would be so dope. I feel like that's what they should be building to next. And at 7, Green Lantern. Hal Jordan, a former military test pilot, wields the power of a Green Lantern as Earth's protector in Sector 2814. He plays a vital role as one of the founding members of the Justice League, which you know who they are, okay? We all want Green Lantern, but we're all too scared to have Green Lantern because of Ryan Reynolds. But it's okay. We could have a Green Lantern. It would be fine as long as it's played by David Ramsey. I want Green Lantern to be in the Arrowverse, but it's not gonna happen, so give it to me in the DCEU with John Diggle. And at 6, Batgirl. Barbara Gordon is a remarkable figure in Gotham. Known as both Batgirl and Oracle, she's the daughter of James Gordon, and she became a member of the Bat family. Batgirl is just freaking dope, and her costume is also sick. It's better than Batman's original costume. Have you seen that one? While attending Burnside College, she briefly dates Charles Dante. However, a tragic event occurs where Joker shoots and paralyzes her. So she can't be Batgirl anymore, so she takes on a new moniker of the Oracle. Barbara's resilience and transformation from Batgirl to Oracle showcases just her insane spirit and just the fact that she can continue to fight even after being paralyzed. Put her in the damn movies, okay? This is why the DCEU is failing. Do the good stuff.
Number 5, Amalak. Coming to us in the very first issue of the most recent Power Girl series, an auction for artifacts from successful alien civilizations, set up by Power Girl herself in her alter ego, is ambushed by a group of space pirates, because of course it is. These pirates are led by a new villain known as Amalak. Now Amalak here has a vendetta against Kryptonians specifically. According to him, Kryptonians destroyed his home planet. He says that Kryptonians basically go and find other planets and declare them lesser than and begin interfering in the natural evolution of that planet. He hates Kryptonians for their colonial ways, basically. He has a whole whack of anti-Kryptonian weaponry that he used to hold back Power Girl long enough for him and his crew to escape. Now it turns out that one of the artifacts at this auction was a piece of Power Girl's symbiote ship that sheltered her and raised her in space. The symbiote ship had managed to infect itself into Amalak and gave him a big old power boost, seemingly granting him a form of geokinesis as well as enough superhuman strength to actually do some real damage to Power Girl. But Power Girl did some damage back, and then Amalak basically ripped his own eye out and disappeared into the sea. So we have to see what will happen next with this character. In at number 4 today is Muzzle. Muzzle is another villain who may actually turn out to be an ally to the heroes given some time. Now starting off as a low-level criminal, Muzzle appeared in Marvel Voices Pride 2023 in the 8th mini-stories within this comic called No Trespassing, Beware of Dog. As part of a crew called the Commune, who are described as a Robin Hood-esque queer human anarchists who live and work together, this group broke into Stark Unlimited Pharmaceuticals to steal hormones to counteract the crazy wait times for trans healthcare in New York City. But they were also stealing insulin among many other things. As they were making their escape, they were stopped by none other than Spider-Man, which is when the Commune sicked Muzzle on him. Muzzle turns out to be the result of an experiment to create a human symbiote hybrid. When he was born with a large symbiote mouth, fangs, and a prehensile tongue, his mother was pretty freaked out and abandoned him to his grandparents, Dory and Grover. Because of his appearance, Muzzle was an outcast, and so he ran off to New York and joined the Commune. When Muzzle faced Spider-Man, he gave Peter a massive bite, was able to absorb Spider-Man's webs and the electric charge from Spidey's web shooters, and fire them back through his mouth. Muzzle was able to web up Spider-Man and subdue him, but Muzzle also came back and healed Spider-Man's wounds, taking them onto himself, so he may yet be a hero. We will see. Number 3, the Childminder. Okay, I'm gonna try my best to explain this one, but it has to do with time travel and DC continuity, and those are my brain's biggest weaknesses. So, here we go. Appearing in Stargirl The Lost Children #1 from January 2023, the Childminder Childminder is a time scavenger who was attracted by the many changes made to the timeline since the Flashpoint event. The big one for the Childminder was the 13, a group of heroes and villains active in the 1940s who were removed from the timeline by the Flash and Dr. Manhattan, and then saved by the Time Masters and accidentally reintegrated back into the timeline. I don't know. 8 of these 13 were the forgotten sidekicks of Golden Age heroes. As the young members of the 13 did not have a proper place in history, the Childminder was able to pull them to Orphan Island, an uncharted island in the Pacific Ocean where time was frozen. She also snatched some kid heroes who had not been erased at all. So, as one of the creepier villains introduced this year, the Childminder gives strong, like, Baba Yaga vibes, evil witch, Hansel and Gretel vibes, that kind of thing, especially with her whole goal of restoring her own youth and how she's like half bird. It's really weird. I need to do more reading on this, but definitely an interesting villain, and she's now in the form of an egg. So, that's something. In at number 2 today is Ogdu Fraze. He may have a silly sounding name, but Ogdu Fraze may very well be the Marvel Multiverse's next big bad. Ogdu is actually Ben Grimm, aka the Fantastic Four's The Thing's latest enemy, appearing in his 2023 series. Now, Ogdu Fraze has laid claim to the Marvel Universe's most dangerous weapons and artifacts, and the most alarming of them is his newly revealed Psychopomp engine. This engine is harnessing the energy of the birth of Galactus himself. And with all that cosmic power at his command, Fraze is trying to remake all of reality in his own image. Specifically though, Fraze intends to rewrite the laws of the universe to remove any trace of entropy in a bid to erase pain and despair. Basically, he's trying to get rid of death. Now, this is something similar to what happened in Marvel's Cancerverse, and if it gains the attention of the many angled ones, like it did then, well, it won't go so great. Even if that doesn't happen though, there are more than like 20 things that could go wrong when trying to remake reality like that, and none of it is good. Not that I know, because it's not real. Number 1, Dr. Hate. First appearing in Night Terror's Night's End #1 in October of 2023, Dr. Hate appears to be an inversion of Dr. Fate. Where Dr. Fate is an agent of the Lords of Order, Hate is an agent of the Lords of Chaos. Now, we don't actually know who it is under the helmet of Hate, but whoever it was made a deal with Amanda Waller to be empowered as Dr. Hate using the Nightmare Stone and the helmet, which she had her operatives retrieve during the Lazarus Planet and Insomnia's assault on Earth. As Dr. Hate, his goal is basically to further the cause of the Lords of Chaos, but thanks to Amanda Waller granting this individual the power, she requires Dr. Hate's assistance in her own schemes. He has a vast level of magical power, especially chaos magic, giving him control over the Red that allowed him to repress Beast Boy's mind when he took on the form of Starro the Conqueror. He has dimensional travel abilities allowing him to enter and exit the kingdom at will, and as well as summoning, flight, teleportation, and telepathy, Hate can leave a mark of chaos in a person which infects them with supernatural spores that transform them into a monster and allow him to control them. Very cool.
In at 10, Ben Reilly. Ben Reilly is a clone of Peter Parker, the famed Spider-Man, created by the villainous Chakal. Ben assumed the identity of Scarlet Spider after separating himself from Peter's world for 5 years, and upon returning to New York to aid Peter's sick Aunt May, he reunited with Peter and became his ally. Later on though, while Peter was away, Ben encountered a man named Gus, who mistook him for Peter because, you know, they're clones, and demanded payment for an unknown debt. Ben denied that he was in fact Peter because he was, but he also wasn't, you know, but Gus continued to harass him. Then, some time later, Ben, along with someone named Janine, who is now known as Hallows Eve, ended up living in limbo with this Gus man. And then of course, because, you know, how else are you supposed to have a hero turned villain origin story, Gus continued to harass Ben, leading to him being beat up and then being brought to the Goblin Queen. And by that I mean Ben beat up Gus and then brought Gus to the Goblin Queen. After Madeline consumed Gus's soul, Ben declared his intention to consume Peter Parker's soul. Yeah, that's a thing that has happened. But like, also just look at the monster that is now known as King Chasm. It's a freaking powerhouse, okay? That thing is terrifying and I want to be him so badly. Okay, I know that also he's like technically a villain and that's why he'd be at 10 on this list instead of higher, but since Ben was a hero, was a Spider-Man, I think that it's allowed. Plus, it's not like you can do anything about it now. It's already on the list. You can't reverse the edit. I'm sorry, YouTube doesn't have that feature yet.
Number 9, Power Girl. I mean, all of the Super family have recently got got somewhat of a makeover with their new looks, Power Girl included. Now they all wear matching jackets. Power Girl likewise has a new look that features a full one-piece bodysuit with a new Super Family matching jacket. Fits right in. She also got some new powers as well, being affected like many others by the Lazarus volcanoes that were like spewing all over the planet. There's just Lazarus raining down everywhere. Power Girl was given psionic abilities during the event, which is quite different for her, going from being a physical powerhouse to a psionic rookie, honestly, to start. Personally, I'm more of a fan of Kara's classic look, but I do like the idea of the Super Family all having a piece of clothing that they share, and I always love a good team jacket look, so I'm definitely here for the jacket part at least. Still, I feel like you could alternatively do this with, you know, the S logo that they all wear or matching capes. Power Girl not only got a new look and a new power set here, but she also got a new partner in heroism as well, teaming up with Omen.
And it ain't Ben 10. Ah, look at that, 2 Bens on this list. Or dare I say, 11 Bens. Because Ben 10 is a popular American animated TV series that originally started running in 2005. The show features the adventures of a 10-year-old boy named Ben Tennyson, yeah, that's actually his name, who discovers an alien device called the Omnitrix. The Omnitrix allows Ben to transform into various alien creatures, originally with 10, hence the name, each with its own unique set of abilities, powers, and weaknesses. And then throughout the series, Ben and his friends, Gwen and then later in a sequel series, Kevin, face off against various villains who seek to use the Omnitrix for their own purposes and just normal run-of-the-mill bad guys like a dude who is mutating animals at one point. But along the way, Ben uses these alien powers and learns how to actually work with them to help others, protect the planet, and ultimately become a hero. It also spawned multiple spin-offs, movies, and video games, cementing its place as a beloved franchise. And personally, I love Ben 10, and I have a Ben 10 jacket. I can't wear it on camera because it's green, which sucks because I love the jacket. But I mean, in 2023, he has like the look of his most recent series, which seems to be the 2014 Ben 10 Omniverse, which has a cartoon style I don't really vibe with, but hey, Ben 10 is still iconic. Or if you want to go a different route, you can go with the Ben 10,000 way of thinking, since Ben 10,000 just has 10,000 different aliens in his Omnitrix, but that actually takes place in 2025, which means that he would look relatively the same this year. There you go. I just wanted to talk about Ben 10, okay?
Number 7, Photon. Well, definitely an homage to her classic look, Monica Rambeau has also received her own suit makeover recently. Personally, I liked her look with the jacket before this, but this one does seem a bit more practical. I mean, I've worn full bodysuits with jackets over top, and let me tell you, it tends to get really hot really fast. One of my favorite things about her newest look, as seen in her new 2023 series, is actually her hair. I love how it is adorned. It makes it look like Monica has like little stars in her hair. It's so pretty, it's so cool. As happy as I am to see this new marvelous look, I'm also even more happy to see Monica as the star of her own series. She is a character who I've been saying for a while I would love to see in her own solo book. Of course, I've been saying that, and then of course the same year that I decided to take a year off from collecting printed Marvel and DC superhero comics, she gets her own series. That timing. Still, I'm very happy to see it, and I hope that you are all collecting it out there.
And it's 6, Green Arrow. Okay, now this is a bit of a weird one, I will admit, but within the context of the Arrowverse, the Green Arrow does have a new look in 2023, okay? The new look is alive. Kind of, technically speaking. Okay, during the 9th episode of The Flash Season 9, Stephen Amell made a return as Oliver Queen. However, this time around, he was still the Spectre. So the Green Arrow is a totally different hero, but also, he's technically a god as well, but like with a couple limitations, so like diet god, if you will. Oliver isn't really dead, they kind of retcon that. He's rather just existing outside of time and space, but he's only capable of interacting with the physical world when the multiverse is in danger, which is kind of interesting as well, since Legends of Tomorrow had an episode where the Legends stumbled upon a location that was being used to film Supernatural, and in the Supernatural episode, The French Mistake, we see Sam and Dean being sent to a reality where Supernatural is a show. So that could have been the same Earth, okay? Since the multiverse is a thing for them too, okay? Do you see where I'm going with this? That would subsequently mean that Chuck wiping out all the Earths in Supernatural was their interpretation of Crisis, and that Oliver rebooting the multiverse gave them their multiverse back as well, as we see in the spin-off series The Winchesters, okay? Where the big bad of the first season was threatening the multiverse. So, where the hell was Oliver during that, when those Earths were in danger, okay? Come on. Or were the Akrita from that show just Ramsey's infected cells? Something to chew on. But yeah, I wanted to talk about it. I haven't been here in a while, okay? I wanted to talk about Arrow and the Flash. I'm sorry. There's a lot of green that I can't talk about because of, well,
Halfway through into number 5, Connor Hawke. The only reason this is on the list is because I want to be in a DC movie. Connor Hawke is the son of Oliver Queen and Sandra Hawke, and takes over the Green Arrow mantle after his father's death. When introduced in Green Arrow Volume 2 number 0 in 1994, he appeared to just be a huge fan of the Green Arrow, but it was later revealed that, unbeknownst to Oliver, I was in fact his son. Sorry, Connor was in fact his son. I don't know, it feels fitting that it's my name. It kind of worked out that way. And while he may have the same skills as his father, although less evolved, Connor does end up gaining a couple powers over his father too. One of them being a healing factor, granted to him due to a genetic mutation from Dr. Sivana. This giving him also a higher resistance to pain, which I feel like I have, but for emotional pain. This also allows him to stay in his prime with ease, much like in a Logan aspect, and thanks to Connor's Zen training, he was able to develop a form of clairvoyance, which I also possess. So I mean, it's prime time to put Connor Hawke in the DCEU and have Connor Munro play him. Just saying. Hit me up, Zack Snyder. In it for Matter Eater Lad. Oh god, I want this so bad. The reason that you might not recognize the absolute DC icon that is Matter Eater Lad is because you're lame. No, actually, the last time this character appeared was over 10 years ago in the pages of a Supergirl comic from 2007. Matter Eater Lad was in essence the hungriest of hippos, but a human. Like able to eat anything and everything he wanted. Did you need a hole in that chain link fence? He has you. Do you need a way out and there's no door? He has you there too. This guy just got to eat, and honestly, I think that's pretty iconic. There was actually a person with this power in real life, if you could believe it, okay? And I'm not even joking. This man would eat light bulbs and bolts, and actually ended up eating a whole bike and a plane from what I can remember. Okay, he was called Mr. Eats All, and he died of natural causes. Look it up, okay? It's the same thing as this guy. I want this on the big screen, please. Getting close to the end, into number 3, Colonel Sanders. Man, people are gonna be mad at me for this one, but hear me out. Harlan Sanders, the renowned founder of KFC, embarked on a unique adventure alongside the Green Lantern Corps in a comic series called KFC Across the Universe. In this story, Colonel Sanders teams up with Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern, to tackle an unexpected challenge. Sanders reveals his collaboration with the Green Lantern Corps is to bring the delicious taste of KFC to customers throughout the galaxy. However, their mission takes a turn when they discover that the notorious Orange Lantern Larfleeze has been pilfering every chicken sandwich sent into space. Now it's up to Colonel Sanders and Hal Jordan to put a stop to the sandwich theft. I'm not even kidding, this is actually a thing. Please make a Green Lantern movie just so that we can have a Colonel Sanders and Hal Jordan crossover movie. KFC would do it, and they will send an actual chicken sandwich to space again for a promo. Please make this a thing. But ultimately, in number 2, Dr. Fate. Dr. Kent Nelson, known as Dr. Fate, is a formidable sorcerer and a devoted agent to the Lords of Order. Alongside his wife Inza, he combats evil forces, guided by the ancient spirit of Nabu, who serves as his mentor and also technically his possessor when he wears his helmet. He's a founding member of the Justice Society of America, and we all know who Dr. Fate is, okay? He's pretty freaking dope. However, Kent's journey began when he and his archaeologist father stumbled upon an underground pyramid of the Valley of Ur, unknowingly releasing Nabu from suspended animation, because, you know, apparently you can suspend spirit in animation, but, you know, that's beside the point. It's comics. Becoming Kent's mentor, Nabu granted him extraordinary powers and relieved him of the grief that he was dealing with. But like, hey, well, Dr. Fate's dope and I want him in the MC. No, I want him in the DCEU. And then also the MCU because I want the crossover thing like I talked about earlier. And finally, into number 1, TMNT. Yes, I want this. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are a group of humanoid turtles skilled in ninjutsu and Japanese martial arts. If you didn't know who they were, how did you not know that? They were published originally as a comic by Mirage Comics, but in recent years they've had crossovers with Batman and appeared as playable characters in Injustice 2. In that game, players can access all 4 turtles, with each turtle equipped with their signature weapon. Not only that, but hear me out, Stephen Amell, okay, he played Casey Jones in TMNT 2 Out of the Shadows. So there we go, there's the link. It's just another universe of the DCEU. Instead of Oliver Queen, he's Casey Jones. There, easy link, make this happen. You're welcome, you can have that one for free.